Good morning, Milwaukee. My name is Gatekeeps, and this is TheAltPath. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back. And it's time for a review of this new Foreign Gnomes action RPG and the sequel to a true underground starlet, Everhood 2. Now, I, like many others, have not been shy about my thoughts on Everhood 1. It's one of my personal favorite games of the decade, if not of all time, although I always thought there was room for improvement, even though my love for the game was so implicit that any facsimile of more content to do with it would have been more than enough to make me excited. And so when the sequel was randomly announced, I found myself counting the days almost immediately. And while I personally had a great time with it, the reviews have been quite mixed, and that is not without good reason. So taking an objective step back, I'm feeling a solid 7 on it, and here's why I think that. For those of you who aren't familiar with Everhood's basic gameplay loop, the pitch that I always give goes something like this. It's Undertale meets Guitar Hero. And so it kicking fucking ass is like no surprise, but it's honestly a miracle it even exists, at least in this form, because the first game managed to find stakes so lofty and insane that it left no room for a sequel or even a prequel, and so Everhood 2 is given the impossible task of being creative enough to even have a story. And it seemingly does the responsible thing with that dilemma, and doesn't try. The first game had a very minimalist approach, essentially funneling all of its thought power into the gameplay itself. It really feels like the minimum amount of pixels they could have possibly filled in is the amount they chose to fill in every time. In the second game, it could not be more opposite. The gameplay is weird, seemingly random, impulsive, and strange. It's a miracle I can even recall half of the things that happened in it. And there's other things too, like several characters with big swelling mythos who 5 minutes after meeting them are a puddle of blood. The game spares no expense and absolutely all of its dignity for a joke, no matter how stupid, and I'd be lying if I didn't say same. The name of the game in Everhood 2 is Maximalism. And why? Every reason, and also just cuz. Everhood 2's story is told through themes and through repeated imagery. There's a huge world around you with a lot of detail put into it that you almost never get to experience even 10% of because the game is throwing you in all directions at all times. That's all I want and more. But for people who want to play a game and not so much a Jackson Pollock painting, it leaves a lot to be desired. And this goes to Everhood 2's biggest problem. It is made for the fans and nobody else. The biggest example of this is that the battle system's restructuring is done specifically to make no-hit achievements easier. Everhood 1 is famous for its no-hit achievements, and I am an idiot who spent dozens of hours of my life getting most of those. But in the second game, they've been replaced by one-hits. In the first game, you would gather pairs of bullets of the same color and fire them back at your enemies. But in the sequel, you can stack as many of that color as you want to do more and more damage. So if you get hit, rather than having to reset the fight, you can just start again. The no-hit never stops. And honestly, for my first playthrough, I basically no-hit everything. It didn't take me like more than an hour and a half before I gave up. And that was fucking thrilling. If you go in with an average amount of skill, you're gonna play it normally. And having done several of the fights doing chip damage the whole way through, it's nowhere near as fun. And the other big thing would be the soundtrack. It's 5.5 hours long. And because Everhood is what it is, 80% of it is rhythm game boss music, and like the first game, it goes fucking crazy. In my opinion, it is a bit of a step sideways though, because the first game's soundtrack had like a dozen composers. Fucking batshit. And so going into a fight, the music was always stimulating. It was always different, it always felt fresh, whereas Everhood 2 shelves almost all the compositional responsibilities onto one of those composers, Kazakh, who has what's generally considered all of the best songs on the first game's soundtrack under his belt. And while he definitely knocks it out of the park with his contributions on this second soundtrack, and while the production is definitely a lot better, I do find myself missing a lot of the diversity in the OG OST. Credit where credit is due though, despite all the chaos, the big fights feel big. Every fight is everything, but those ones are somehow more everything. And they're all generally the most memorable songs on the soundtrack too. In fact, despite this, some of my favorite songs of 2025 are actually off of this soundtrack. And here's the third thing. This is the one that really hurts the game's score. If you're a diehard fan like me, and you've put in many hours into the first game, as I have, you're going to explore every nook and cranny of the second game, and you're going to find secret stuff. But for some reason, some of those MacGuffins are required to advance the plot? And it's bad enough when like an old school Zelda game forces you to find some hidden wall you would have never thought to check to progress the game. But Everhood 2 has the gall to say if you miss this really obscure collectible in a room you would only think to check if you've 100% completed the first game, when you get to the final boss, the game is going to teleport you back to the start and force you to play New Game Plus. That didn't happen to me on my playthrough, but if it did, I would have uninstalled the game right then and there, because that is completely indefensible. I've said this before about Pokemon trainers hiding below high beams and tall grass, and I've said this before about the Land of Hell. If you punish the player by making them play more of your game, there is a problem. Now, if somebody is playing the game and just doing whatever presents itself to them, why are you gonna punish them? The ego on that choice is completely indefensible to me. I can't imagine accepting somebody's money and then punishing them for not doing with what you sold them what you intended. Like, imagine if I went to the store and bought a carton of eggs, and then I used 9 of them before the last 3 hit the expiry date. And then the chicken that laid them came and punched me in the balls. There's no world where that makes fucking sense. And the thing is, there is a fight right next to the final boss that you can do to get a bonus MacGuffin. It would literally just be deleting like 3 lines of code and you jump up a full letter grade. But they still haven't fixed it yet. And it's been months. Like, what reasoning could there be? It never ends in Everhood? I doubt that. Like, I'm here as a payment-free spokesperson for this fucking game. I talk about it whenever I get the chance. Why are they the ones gatekeeping it? It's fucking ridiculous. Again, I love this game. I think the soundtrack is incredible. It's too funny for its own good. The only thing I will levy against it that I felt during my playthrough was that the ending being another one of those no expense spared jokes pissed me off at the time. If you're an Everhood fan, you've probably already played it, but if you haven't, make sure you get everything and you'll have like a solid 9 experience. But if you're just playing casually and not trying to kill yourself over this thing, it might honestly be worth getting good at the first game before you take a crack at this one. Either way, the first game is better, but this would still be a very formidable sequel for anybody after they deleted the 5 lines of code that soft lock you. At least Security Breach had the decency to put in a save station after 6. Alright, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Thanks for watching, you've been great. Expect more review content from this channel, by the way, because this was actually very fun to do once I figured out how to record it. You don't want to know how long it took to set this fucking tripod up. But see you next time.